Hi geometry students, this is Miss Graham, and today we are going to be starting a new unit, Unit 4, called Circles, Coordinates, and Constructions. So make sure you are pulling out Unit 4 if you're using the digital textbook. It's on our Schoology page. If we're using the physical textbook, we are actually going to be pulling out pages 335 through 338. We're going to start off looking at Lesson 24-1, Circle Basics. So let's go ahead and look at our learning targets. We are going to describe relationships among tangents and radii of a circle, as well as review those vocab words. And we're going to use arcs, chords, and diameters of a circle to solve problems. We can see there's going to be a lot of new vocabulary that we will be using in this unit. Let's go ahead and start reading. It says a circle is the set of all points in a plane at a given distance from a given point in the plane. Lines and segments that intersect the circle have special names. The following illustrates tangent lines to a circle. So we can see we have a circle, and we are looking at all points in the plane that are the same distance from a given point in the plane. So we're really going to be looking at the center of our circle, and all the points on the outside are the same distance away from that center. We also see that there is this line that touches one part of our circle, and that's what is called a tangent line. We can also see that it is here. This type of line can be completely vertical, horizontal, or it can also be diagonal. Now, moving over to the margin on the right side, again, we can say a circle consists of an infinite number of points. So that's something to kind of consider as we're moving on forward. Number 1 says, on the circle below, draw 3 unique examples of lines or segments that are not tangent to the circle. So going back up to what we saw above, remember a tangent line means that it touches the circle once. So I want you to draw 3 different examples that show a line that does not touch the circle once, which means it is not tangent to the circle. So here are my 3 examples. So I'm going to draw a line that goes through and touches the circle twice. I'm going to go ahead and draw a line that doesn't touch the circle at all. And then one more specific example that I will show you is where I have a line segment that goes through the circle and touches once, but this is different from a tangent line because we can see with our tangent lines up here, it does not go through the circle. So this is an example of a line that is not tangent. Specifically, it is a ray because we have one point on the ends and an arrow on the other side. So now for number 2, we're going to write a definition for tangent lines. So let's go ahead and start writing. We know it is a line, right? So we're going to say a line is tangent to a circle if and only if it intersects the circle in exactly one point. Alrighty, so we got that down. Now let's go ahead and go on to number 3. So it says, using the circle below, it says draw a tangent and a radius to the point of tangency. Well, we kind of have to go over what this actually really means. So we're going to go over into the right side to remind ourselves of what a radius is. So the radius of a circle is a segment or length of a segment from the center of the circle to any point on the circle. So going back to our visual here, we could draw a radius as going from the center to any point on the circle. We can draw that anywhere throughout this circle. And it kind of goes along with that definition of a circle, how all of these are an infinite set of points that are the same distance from our center. So now that we have a radius, we want to draw a tangent line and a radius to the point of tangency. So here's what we're going to do. This point right here is where we're going to draw our tangent line. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my tangent line right there. And this point right here is called the point of tangency. So I'm going to go ahead and circle that so you can see that this is the point of tangency, where I drew my tangent line and it touches the circle at the point of tangency. Now, looking at part B, it says describe the relationship between our tangent line and the radius of the circle drawn to the point of tangency. So looking at this, I'm really asking, do you notice anything about this intersection point and maybe what type of angle it creates? That's right. You're going to see that our tangent line is perpendicular to a radius that is drawn to the point of tangency. So we're going to go ahead and write that down. So we're going to say a tangent line is perpendicular to a radius that, let's try that again, that is drawn to the, and I'm going to abbreviate, point of tangency. All right, so we're looking pretty good on what's happening right now. Now, here's what we're going to go ahead and have you do. On our calendar, we're going to go ahead and have you pull up the link for our additional vocab sheet for this circles unit. We're going to go ahead and use this vocab sheet to really help us out in figuring out, okay, important vocabulary words to focus in on as we're going through and learning about circles. So go ahead and pull that out, and we're going to add some of the vocab that we just learned from our first page on it. So this is what the vocab sheet looks like once you have it pulled up. We are going to go ahead and zoom in and focus on some of the vocab word at the top. So let's start off with looking at up at the top where it says circle. So we're going to fill in what the definition of a circle is. So a circle is the set of all points equidistant, that means the same distance, from a center. So that's our first vocab word we're going to look at. The second one we looked at was a radius. So we're going to write down that it is a segment from the center to outside, and we know that is also on our circle. Now let's go ahead and start filling some of this in. So I'm going to go ahead and put the center of my circle as best as I can. I'm going to eyeball it, and I'm going to go ahead and draw my radius in blue. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the radius. That's an example I have right there, and I'm actually going to label it just like that. Now, something else that we're going to start to look at as well is our diameter, right? So we're going to go ahead and write down the definition of a diameter. It's actually two radii put together. It's a segment whose endpoints are on the circle. So its endpoints are on the outside of the circle, but it's going to go through the center. So let's write down that definition. So it's a segment whose endpoints are on the circle and go through the center. So let's pick a different color for this. So let's have our diameter be in green. So an example of a diameter could be this line, where its endpoints are on the circle and it goes through the center. So I'm going to go ahead and label diameter right there. Now we're going to come back and go through some of these other vocab words, but we're going to go down a little bit to where you see it says tangent line, and we're now going to go ahead and fill in that definition there, because we know what that is. We know a tangent line is a line that touches the circle exactly once. So we're going to say that it's a line that touches the circle only once. And looking at this next part, we can actually fill it in too. It says a tangent line is blank to the radius that is drawn to the blank. That's actually where we last left off on. Remember that point of tangency? We realized when we drew our tangent line and it touched our radius that it actually was perpendicular. So we're going to fill in here that a tangent line is perpendicular to a radius that is drawn to the point of tangency. So we're going to go ahead and draw that picture right on over here. So we're going to go ahead and draw a radius. So I'm going to go ahead and make my center again. And then let's say I draw my radius let's say right here. Perfect. We're going to have kind of our tangent line, right, drawn through that point of tangency, which we have right there. So we know we have this point of tangency, and we know we have a tangent line. Look at that. It creates that 90-degree angle, so we can actually come in there and mark down that 90-degree angle. Awesome. All right, so here's what we're going to do now is we are going to continue on with our lesson. So go ahead and flip to the next page in our textbook, and we're going to pick up from there. So we are on the next page, and we are going to zoom in up to the top to just go ahead and go over a vocab word that I already introduced and we added to our word wall. Let's go ahead and read up at the top. Now, we're going to look in the margin. We're actually going to skip kind of that paragraph. So it says a diameter is a segment or the length of a segment that contains the center of a circle and two endpoints on a circle. So it really is combining together two radii together. It's a line segment that goes through the circle, that goes through its center and hits its endpoints. So like I said, we're actually going to skip this paragraph up at the top, and we're going to go ahead and skip numbers 5 and 6 as well. We're going to scoot on down and look at two more new vocab words over in the margin on the left side. So we're going to read through those and add those to our word wall shortly. So it says a chord is a segment whose endpoints are points on the circle. So just like a diameter, but it doesn't go through the center. Our next vocab word says an arc. So an arc is part of a circle consisting of 2 points on the circle and the unbroken part of the circle between the 2 points. So we're going to go ahead, jump back to our word wall, and we're going to go ahead and add these onto there. So right where we last left off, we're going to go ahead and take a look at writing down the definition of chord. So as we saw before, a chord is a segment whose endpoints are on the circle. So we're going to say a segment whose endpoints are on the circle. So it just doesn't go through the center. So let's pick a different color. We're going to pick yellow for our chord. So an example of a chord could be this segment right there, where it goes through our circle, but its endpoints are on the ends here. So that's what a chord is. It's different from a diameter because remember the endpoints of a diameter are on the circle, but it goes through the center. And a radius is a little bit different because it really only goes through the center as well as just one endpoint on our circle. Now, we're going to jump down to here. We'll come back to the starred area, but we're going to go ahead and look at where it says arc. So we know an arc is a portion of our circle, and I know the textbook kind of explained it in a little bit of a wordy way, but I'm going to try to help you think of a good analogy to look at this. So we're going to be really looking at kind of like the crust on a pizza. That's kind of what the arc is. You're just looking at what the crust portion is. So I'm going to write that it is a portion of the circle, and in, parentheses, I'm going to say it's like the crust on a pizza. So when we're looking at this, okay, so let's go back up and kind of add this vocab word to this picture up here. So we can see, let's say I have 2 points right here. This part that I'm outlining, that's going to be our arc. And I'll go ahead and highlight that here as well. That's an arc. An arc can be a lot bigger, can be a lot smaller, but like I said, it's similar to looking at the crust on a pizza. So now let's jump back to our textbook. So here we are back at our textbook, and looking at this, we can see that we're going to be going on and looking at a little bit more vocab. So what it wants us to now look at right underneath number 6, so let's go ahead and skip number 6. We're going to look at this statement, a pretty important statement that the textbook is going to make about what we just learned. We're going to learn the perpendicular bisector of 2 chords in a circle will intersect at the center of the circle. So you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, what does this mean? Maybe let's draw a picture so we can understand and figure this out. So let's go ahead and go over kind of to the margin over here. So we're going to go ahead and draw our circle as best as we can. And keep in mind that I'm going to use 2 different colors for the chords. So here's one chord that I'm going to go ahead and draw. And then let's draw, I don't know, another chord just like that. Let's visualize it where it's not intersecting chords. So we're going to say the perpendicular bisector. So of each chord. So that means where it cuts it exactly in half and creates a 90-degree angle. So we're going to eyeball and do that for each of these. So we got that, cuts it in half, makes a 90-degree angle. So we're saying the perpendicular bisectors of those 2 chords in a circle, they're actually going to intersect at the center. So that's going to be the center of my circle. So that's what it's really trying to tell us. Now we're going to go ahead and go off of one more idea about circles. Again, we're going to kind of skip numbers. We're going to skip numbers 7 and 8. We're going to kind of try to look at a different visualization of maybe what happens when we have a diameter and a chord. So let's go ahead, and we're still going to use the margin again. We're going to draw kind of off to the margin a circle again. All right, ooh, that's not the best circle. I'm going to try to draw it one more time. That's a little bit better. Okay, so we're going to draw a diameter. So go ahead and put your center of your circle, and we're going to go ahead and draw our diameter going through it. Perfect. That's looking great. So we're also going to draw a chord, but this is what I'm going to show you. I want you to draw a chord that is actually perpendicular to our diameter. So really, we could draw the chord on this side, we could draw it on this side, but we want it to create a 90-degree angle right there, or wherever it intersects. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my chord just like this. Perfect. So my chord, again, my chord could be drawn anywhere on my circle. I could draw it there or there, but I'm trying to create that 90-degree angle, that perpendicular relationship. So what we're going to realize is when we have a diameter that's perpendicular to a chord, something funny actually happens. It actually will bisect the chord itself. So this half and this half will be congruent to each other. So that's pretty cool to look at. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add this idea that we kind of just went through to our word wall. So let's go ahead and pull that out. All right, we are here at our word wall, and we're going to go back up to kind of where it says our starred area. Looking good right there. So it says when a diameter, and we're going to say is perpendicular to a chord. Remember, the diameter bisects the chord. And we're actually going to draw that visual right on over here. So let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to, let's say, pick a different color. Beautiful. So let's say we have our diameter again. So I'm going to draw my center. I'm going to draw my center. Here we go. And I'm going to go ahead and draw the diameter. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw my chord. Remember, I want to draw a chord that intersects that at a 90-degree angle. Let's go ahead and draw this right here. I know it's a little bit of a switch up from our other picture. That's okay. It's good to kind of change things up. So again, we know they intersect at a 90-degree angle. And the cool part is we know that these segments are congruent to each other. Nice. So we will be continuing to add to this word wall focused on circles, but we're going to go ahead and flip to our next page in our textbook, and you're going to get your homework for tonight. So if you were in Miss Graham's class, your homework for tonight is page 337, numbers 9 through 12. If you're not in Miss Graham's class, go ahead and check with your teacher on what your homework is tonight. Happy mathing!